4.3, solving quadratic functions by by factoring. Last class we solved by graphing, so now we're factoring. First, you want to pull out a common monomial. That means one term. What I like to say, the question I like to ask, common number and or a common variable. Okay, so if we look at the first one, 35x squared minus 15x, okay, what can you pull out of there? You can pull out a 5, okay, and you can also pull out a common x. So if I pull out a 5x, what that basically means is I'm dividing each one by what I pull out of the equation. So that gets me 7x minus 3. That's my answer. The next one, 6x minus 13x cubed. Okay, common number, none. Common variable is an x. So you're left with 6 minus 13x squared. Okay, this next one, when you see 4, you want to find, again, a common number and a common variable. Common number would be 3. Common variable would be a. So again, you're dividing everything by 3a. So you're left with b minus 2c plus 3a minus 4z. That would be your answer. Here, because these two, the inside numbers are the same, what's in common, you'll say, is the y plus 2. So what do you have left over? If you pull a y plus 2 out, then you have an x plus 3 in there left over. The next step, after you pull out a common number, common variable, okay, if you have more than 3 terms, you're going to factor by grouping. So this is more than 3 terms. Factor by grouping says you're going to take and you're going to split this into 2 groups, and you're going to go back and factor out common number, common variable. So here we can factor out a 3p squared. So you're left with 4p minus 7. Here you can factor out a positive 7, so you're left with 4p minus 7. The inside, the parentheses, must be the same. If it's not the same, you've done something wrong. So we're going to group these back together. What's not inside the parentheses goes in a group. And then what's outside, or what's left over, is the 4p minus 7. Let's look at the next one. Again, we group these together. The first one, if you notice, there's not anything we can pull out of the 9mz minus 4nc. So what you might have to do is you might have to rearrange this so you're able to pull something, a common number, common variable out. For example, I see I have m, so I'm going to rewrite this as 9mz plus 3mc minus 4nc minus 12nz. So what I did is I wrote the m's together and then the n's together, so when I group, I can do that. So we can pull out a 3m on this one, so you're left with 3z plus c. Okay, and here, because this first one's negative, you're going to probably most likely pull out a negative number. You can pull out a negative 4, n, so you're left with c plus 3z. Now, I know these aren't written inside the parentheses in the same order, but you just want to make sure that they are the same. The 3z's are both positive and the c's are positive, so you're good to go. My answer is you pull out 3m minus 4n, you put those together, and then you have c plus 3z. Okay, we'll practice more grouping once we get to here. Okay, now that we have 3 terms, we're going to factor. Okay, so there's a couple steps that need to be taken here. Step 1, you need to multiply a times c together. So this is step 1. So a times c is 6 times 7. 6 times 7. Okay, now when you get 6 times 7, you're going to write it down. That gets you 42. Okay, step 2 is you want to write out the factors of a times c. So writing out those factors, okay? 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, 4, no, 5, no, 6 and 7, okay? Now, those are all of our factors for 42. You need to look at these factors, these numbers here, and see which ones will add or subtract to get you negative 11, okay? So if you notice right here, we have 3 and 14. That will get us to 11. 14 minus 3 is 11. Now, here's a little trick I tell my students every year. I'm going to write it over here. The larger factor takes the middle sign. Oops. Okay, the larger factor takes the middle sign. So our middle sign here is negative 11. So our middle sign is negative. So which number is bigger, the 3 or the 14? The 14. So it's negative 14 plus 3. Now that you have that, here goes step 3. You're going to replace the new factors with the b term. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite this. 6a squared. I'm going to replace those factors. So I'm going to have a minus 14a plus 13a minus 7. Okay, now when I have 4 terms, I group those together. So first, what can I pull out of this one? Well, I can pull out a 2 to 6 and 14, and I can pull out an a. So I'm left with 3a minus 7. Okay. And then what can I pull out here? Well, I have a 3a minus 7 here. I know that looks like 13. Let me fix that. That's a plus 3a. Okay, so what can I pull out there? The 3a minus 7. Well, there's nothing in common. So you can't write nothing. There's always something in common. It would be a plus 1. 3a minus 7. And just like we've done with all the other groupings, the inside the parentheses have to be the same. So your answer is what's on the outside, 2a plus 1 and 3a minus 7. Okay, next, let's do this next example. I'm going to write it over here. 3a squared minus 10a plus 7. Okay, so first step is to multiply a times c together. So 3 times 7 is 21. You're going to write down the factors of 21. 1 and 21 and 3 and 7. Now, which one of these factors gets you 10? Well, it's going to be 3 and 7. And it's a negative. So negative, well, a negative 7 plus 3, that's a negative 4. And we don't want negative 4, we want negative 10. So we're going to make the 3 negative 2. Now we're going to rewrite this. Step 3, we're replacing our new factors. 3a squared minus 7a minus 3a, and then you're going to do plus 7. Okay, more than 3 terms, so we group, and now you pull out something in common. So this first one, the only thing that's in common is a, so you're left with 3a minus 7. What's in common here, the only thing that's in common is because this 3 is negative, you don't want that to be negative because I need 3 to be positive, so you're going to pull out a negative 1. So it's 3a minus 7. So our answer, a minus 1, 3a minus 7. Okay, let's try the next one. Let's look at this one. Okay, so first, I wanted you guys to recognize that there's a K at the very end in your C term. That can't happen, so that should be a red flag that you're going to need to probably factor that out. The other thing is these numbers are pretty high, and normally we wouldn't give you that high of numbers, okay? So let's look at this. Well, I know I can factor it right away. I said I saw K, so I know I can factor K out. And then what number's in common between 20 or 45, 63, and 18? And that number is 9. So I get 5b squared minus 7b plus 2. All right, so now I go into my steps. So step 1 is to multiply the 5 and the 2 together to get me 10. And those 1 and 10 and 2 and 5 are my factors. Okay, what gets me negative 7 is the 2 and 5, and those both have to be negative. So I'm going to place that in 5b squared minus 2b minus 5b plus 2. Again, remember I replaced the negative 2b minus 5b with the 7. Next, I'm going to group. I'm going to pull out a common number, common variable, so b. So I have 5b minus 2. And here, I notice that that 5b is negative, and I need it to be positive, so I'm going to pull out a negative 1, 5b minus 2. So my answer, I have the b minus 1 and the 5b minus 2. And the very last thing is in the very beginning, we pulled out a 9k. So we need the 9k there. So this is our answer. Okay. These next ones are a little bit easier, and the reason why they're easier is because there's nothing in front of your x squared term. Okay? There's nothing in front. On all these other ones, there was something in front. When there's nothing in front, it's a 1, right? So you would still do the same step. Step 1, multiply the a times c together, which gets you 1 times 60 is 60. Okay, and then next you'll do the factors of 60. 1 and 60, 2 and 30, 3 and 20, 4 and, I'm having a mind blank, 15. Okay, 5 and 12, and 6 and 10, a whole bunch of them. Okay, which factors will add or subtract to get you 17? And that's going to be 5 and 12. Now, 17 is a positive, so it's a positive 12 and a positive 5. Okay, because that's going to be a positive 17. So what's nice about this one is technically you don't have to replace it. Let me show you. Let me replace the 5 and 12 with the 17, and then I'll show you a shortcut. So that's a squared plus 5a plus 12a plus 60. Okay. Group those together. Pull out a. A is a plus 5. Here you're going to pull out 12, so that's a plus 5. What's inside is the same, so good. So our answer is a plus 12 times a plus 5. Now, here's the shortcut. Well, so this is our answer. But the shortcut is when you don't have a number in front of your x squared term, once you figure out the factors of a positive 5 and a positive 12, you can write it straight to what's in parentheses. You don't have to do the grouping method. That's the shortcut. But again, you can only do that if the number in front of the x squared is 1. Let's try x squared minus 4x minus 21. Okay, so factors of 21, right? Because there's a 1 here. So that's 1 and 21 and 3 and 7. Okay, which one of these gets you 4? Well, clearly we could see that it's 3 and 7. That's a negative 4, so the 7 is negative, the 3 is positive. Because the term in front of the x squared is 1, I can just go straight to my answer of x plus 3 and x minus 7. Okay, next is a difference of two squares. A difference of two squares, the mean is in the title. So a difference, there has to be a subtraction sign. There can only be two terms. And both of those terms have to be perfect squares. Okay, perfect squares as in 4, 9, 16, 25. You guys kind of get the hint. Okay? So when you do that, when you see that there's only two terms and there's a subtraction sign and they're both perfect squares, the way you solve it is you square root the first and you square root the last, and that will get you what's inside your parentheses. So let's set up our answer. To set up your answer, you do two parentheses, one with a plus and one with a minus. The square root of the first, square root of x squared is x, square root of 25 is 5, and that is your answer. Let's go to this one right here. So two terms, yes. Subtraction sign, yes. Both of them are perfect squares, yes. So let's set up our answer with a plus and a minus. The square root of 144 is 12. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of m squared is n. And that's our answer. Okay, so this says the zero product. Now remember when we found the zero in the graph last class? Well, this is doing it by factoring. So after you factor, then they want to know what x is equal to. So the way you do that is, number one is already factored for you. So all you have to do is do x minus 3 equals 0 and x plus 1 equals 0. So x is equal to 3 and x is equal to negative 1. Let's look at this second one right here. Now there's only two terms, and when there's only two terms, it's either a difference of two squares or you have to pull out a common number, common variable. So here we're going to pull out a common number of 6 and a common variable of x. So we're left with 2x minus 3 equals 0. And then you solve. You have 6x equals 0. And then you have 2x minus 3 equals 0. So x is equal to 0. 2x is equal to 3. X is equal to 3 over 2. Okay, and lastly, two more little concepts. First, for distributive property, we've done this before. This is like foiling, right? So the x goes to the x to get you x squared. The x goes to the 5 to get you 5x. Then you do negative 3x and negative 15. You collect like terms to get you x squared plus 2x minus 15. Okay, and the last concept for today. What they're doing here is they're giving you the roots. So they're saying that x is equal to negative 8 and 5, and they want you to go backwards to give them the equation of ax squared plus bx plus c. So they want to know that. So here's how you do it. It's always standard. You're going to give me two parentheses, and in each parentheses, you're going to give me an x minus. This happens every single time. So even with number 2, when you see the two fractions, you would give me 2 parentheses with the x minus in it. Okay? Then you're going to plug those numbers in. We have a -8 and we have a 5. And we're going to clean that up a little bit. This gets you x plus 8, and this gets you x minus 5. Now we're on our way to the right direction. How do I get to ax squared plus bx plus c? Well, now I'm going to do distributive property, or FOIL. So x times x is x squared, x times -5, -5x, positive 8x, and a -40. So I'm going to collect like terms right here. X squared plus 3x minus 40 is my answer. Okay, those are the notes for today.